we go. And you're good to go.
All right.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I want to know about my journey to the Bitter Earth by Stanley Austin. But I want to hear a little bit about Stanley.
Okay. Stanley Austin, well, the most interesting thing that happened in his life, the first interesting thing was when he was 11 years old. Stanley Austin, him and some fellows, other kids, they went to this church on 15th V Street. Once in that church, he encountered a statue which still is the Antichrist. By viewing this statue, several other things that began to occur in his life. And at that point, he indulged in many different things. First of all, after having that experience, he was able to see the different types of prejudice and things that exist in his life. Because at said time, he was attending elementary school, and at that time, his sister, looks like him, was voted for May Queen. And when he attended the school that morning, when they both went to school for the May Day parade, she was told because she was dark, she could not be the May Queen. At that said time, being a young man, I didn't understand it. So, but it had a tremendous effect on my life and things to come in my life. During this course, I shared with a bed with 5 other siblings. You had the girls sleeping up top, the boys sleeping at the bottom of the bed, and you have urination, piss, and chinches in the middle. This was the upcoming of living in the property. Well, from that point, I was able to be able to meet a lot of people in my lifetime, some famous and some just folks. They were like Thurgood Marshall, William B. Bryant, and Billy Murphy. These were the judges that had really taught me about the legal system, the rights and the wrong of the legal system. Now also I encounter with others, Judge Orby Robinson, who first introduced me to the corruption, whereupon he allowed the officer of the police that was involved in my case to come and take me out of the jail. I was in Hanover County, Virginia, when the 2 detectives was investigating my case. Officer Chalet and Riggs, they came posted as marshals to trying to take me out to jail, as well as Judge Robinson was aware that Officer David Riggs had, during the trial, had assaulted, raped my co-defendant, and this is, her father had reported that to the Judge Robinson that morning, which he did nothing about. So, but however, there were others. Judge Hoffman, he was a federal judge in Baltimore. I filed a suit while I was incarcerated, and the suit was so detrimental to me and people that what he did, he said that it found it timely. And not knowing that I had gave it to the chief law clerk, which was his daughter, well, all of a sudden she went on a 6-month vacation. And then it was Eric Holder, which I will discuss later in the book. There were a few good people. There were a lot of marshals. The marshals, they were, some of them were really good to me. They prevented me from getting what you call a lobotomy to take out the criminal tendency of the brain. However, during that time, I thought was an obstacle that I would be going to a drug center treatment. They made me aware that that was a trick. Also, the time that during my incarceration, I encountered many different times where my life was threatened by doctors and lawyers. But however, I was able to, to overcome them obstacles at the time. Okay, I've been involved in politics since 1963. The most interesting person I met was Bobby Baker. You know how many people is aware of Bobby Baker? Bobby Baker was a page boy who controlled the senators and the congressmen. I learned a lot from him. I also, through this process of the political process, I also was aware of what was going on with people that hold offices in Washington, D.C., you know, and I saw the many opportunities that was passed out for lack of knowledge of people having about the candidates. Because in my opinion, my list of people who made Washington better, that didn't get in office, that wasn't in office long enough, as far as the mayor concerned, I always looked at Walter Fauntleroy. And the councilman, the best councilman that ever been there was Bill Lightfoot. As well as the campaign manager, you had Mr. Joe Carter. Those people in Washington ever been in politics, they know the persons I'm talking about. Then you have a really outstanding A&C commissioner of Ward 8, Kenneth Baker, which people call Detroit. Yeah, I have experience being with Marion, Barry. I helped them in so many ways, which is not, you know, not even mentionable. But I have been challenged with many questions as to how things should be done. And what I did, I've made a whole lot of effort. Things that have, some things I have done during this course of it was like when I was incarcerated. When I was incarcerated, I have did research on Alzheimer's disease, age, and theories and solutions for juvenile delinquency, and other projects such as the Black Flight. Then I became a jailhouse lawyer, as they call it. However,
what's a jailhouse lawyer?
The jailhouse lawyer is one inmate who would take the time to study law. And they had the advantage as to the lawyers in the street. See, in my time, we had to do it all. We had to do the research and everything that is required for a lawyer before he go to trial. You have to know it. Then you have to be, by being in jail, you have to know the stages and the steps, the appeal process, and whatnot. And during the course of that, like I say, I haven't come to know Thurgood Marshall. Unbeknown how the process of the law go, I written him, and he told me, he introduced me to a law that even very few lawyers know. And he told me, the reason why they couldn't entertain my case is because of the process. He said the only way that a person can petition the Supreme Court straight from trial is because the trial must consist of all constitutional issues. And even today, you know, a lot of lawyers are confused on that when I address that, but that is the process. I come to share my projects. One of the projects where I was incarcerated, which I shared with Thurgood Marshall, was the Black Flight. The Black Flight, it consists of what its motives and objectives was the Black Flight objective was to you know, help the kids who was caught up with the drug scene and feel there was no hope. The children who was in church and may be tempted by drugs without considering the consequences. Society in general comes to realization that the most powerful drug-free zone in the community is within the community. Okay, the Black Flight was shared at the Martin Luther King Library in 1992, and displayed on Black History Month throughout the District of Columbia during the Martin Luther King parades. And it also was shared at the painting that was, the Black Flight was with Perrin Mitchell, Congressman Walter Fauntleroy, Judge Thurgood Marshall, and Pastor Reverend Elder Spearman. They were the people that handled and showed concern in being adopting the Black Flight. Also, there was.
So, what year did the Black Flight? What time? What era?
Time frame, right? The Black Flight was the time frame of it began in It began in 1989. It was first featured on Channel 4. And then in 1991, the Martin Luther King Library, in February, Black History Month, it was on display for about a month. And the other thing relating to the Black Plight, see the Black Plight, it tells us a painting was drawn by Marvin Lord, and what it does, it describes different scenes as to what the young people encounter every day, and it also gives solutions to the problem that exists during the day. And as I was saying, a lot of interesting people that I had met in my life, one of the most interesting people was Malcolm X. When I talked to him, my first words to him, I said, how can you defeat your enemy if you don't know him? But his response was, like, I thought, a complete different subject matter. He turned to me and he said, oh, knowing your enemies, he said, did you know what's going to destroy the world, and this country and the world? And I said, no. He said, the one-eyed monster. And I said, well, who is the one-eyed monster? He said, right now it's the TV. And I said, well, TV, he said, TV, you know, had been out since 1923. He said, where it is now, this is 1960. He said, well, where it's now, that reason it took so long because you had to have sponsors. And what had happened was, a bunch of psychiatrists and psychologists went to GM, General Mills, and they went to the automobile manufacturers, and they told them, see, if you would show a 1-minute commercial, I would guarantee your sales and products would go up. And this really was inevitable because the psychologists and psychiatrists, they were know and they were strong about the subliminals. The subliminals, they know very few people in the world think for themselves. They know once they've been introduced by some object or someone, they will receive and adopt this think pattern. And so as he was saying, as today is very, very clear with your social media, your Facebook, and all these different technology, and now you can see, even Stevie Wonder can be able to see this is happening. And you can see how it will eventually destroy the world. However, my plight, I always felt that a lot of things that I accomplished never, you know, it wasn't about the recognition, it was about how they would not allow me as a per se the person to present it to the public. And I truly accepted that in a way because I look back and think about things that I had done to others. So I had no problem with sharing it. So I would give it to others, all my projects, I would give to other people and tell them, you know, for the benefit of the community, the people, the country. So they would take my ideas. And like I said, I did this thing on Alzheimer's. No, I'm not a doctor. But I learned while incarcerated, I didn't know how to explain about the cerebral cortex and different functions of the brain. Matter of fact, you know, I was considered a functionally illiterate. So what I did, I got a magazine. I wrote a magazine that talked about the mind and the brain. And from that, I was able to, with a gift of thinking, I was able to come up with solutions. I know while I was incarcerated, one particular guard up Hagerstown, he had asked me, you know, he heard about me saying that he asked me could I help him, his mother. He hadn't talked to his mother in 20 years, she hadn't spoken. So I come up with the theory. I asked him what was the relationship between his mother and father. They said, oh, they were close. So I told him to get some pictures that were at the times when his mother and father was together, the good moments, play the music that they liked. And it's about a month and a half later, he came in there, he was so excited, he was on the midnight shift, and the first thing he said, oh, they ain't gonna kill this nigga on my shift. The word presence of Hagerstown Borough. And from that, he said, because, you know, then he told me that his mom was talking to him now. He had done this process and they are communicating. and he was just overjoyed, but he knew I was in political prison, and my life was always threatened by the administration.
What's a political prisoner?
A political prisoner can be anyone that sort of challenged the system. Anyone that challenged the system. You become, once you be vocal of what the system is doing and how they're treating people and whatever, all the different things that is wrong within the system, you challenge that, then you become a political prisoner. And most times they don't like you communicate with other prisoners, which such as me. I have spent most of my time going from one lockup to another. There were times when they write a ticket, we call it this, a ticket that I had went before the Justice Board. They said, well, what is the charge? What is his crime? What is the charge? And they just jump out, just take him off the compound for about a year. And that's what I, would be going through. But even at that, I wouldn't allow that to stop me. They let me out of the isolation process because others was there, and I started a GE class there while I was there.
Well, may I ask you, where's there, what prison? Which prison?
Hagerstown, MCI, And it was, so it's funny how you ask, because after they had gave me, took me to the hospital, they did several things, They did a bad operation on me, which I didn't know nothing about it. But one great thing that happened, they gave me some soda pentothal, which is the truth serum. And by me being a political prisoner, I was carried to the hospital, so the particular officer, he refused to leave. So this is how I knew about what all that took place. He refused to leave because, I was prisoner. So he related to the warden what happened. They gave me this soda pentothal. He said he's smart people for Washington. But somehow what they was looking for wasn't true. Even the crimes, the punishment they thought they had been punishing me for, it wasn't true. And so the guard had related to the warden how he had to stop them. They wanted to continue to shoot some more in me. He felt that, maybe I died some. So he stopped them. And see, by stopping him, the first thing he said when he got back to the warden, he said, this man is nothing but a scapegoat. So I don't know who he's supposed to be, but the president's wife or whoever. But all of it, it's a lie. And from that point on, I sort of like disappeared in the jail. They hid me from the warden. For 8 months, I stayed on a lockup. But then one day, one side was lockup, one side was go to child. One day, by accident, they hit my cell. So I said, well, let me go and see what the child hall changed. So I walked through the child hall. The warden come up and saw me. He like, what are you doing in my jail? I'm like, I don't have no keys. So he said, wait here. He went there. We went back to, I guess, he said the bus was out there and I'm getting on it. He went back there. Only thing I see him come back with his pistol on his side, grabbed me and carried me to the gate, told the fella in the tower watching people get on the bus. He said he put me on the bus and they're gonna handcuff me on the bus. So that's how I left Hagerstown. But once I left Hagerstown, I was hearing the guards talking, so we're going to have to dump him off. They had no paperwork on me or nothing. So there I was when I was left at Jessup. I was in the middle of Jessup, and they wondered how I got there. They thought I broke into Jessup because everybody's name and everybody had a record. So this is what happened. So but I actually had a person that was in classification that I knowed him from the penitentiary. And he knew about my plight. He knew of the attempts that they had, on my record initiated, to get rid of me. So he had to wind up come up with a solution, because when he see me, he thought I was dead. He said, oh my God, you still living. So, but you can't stay in my jail, I want to process. So he had to send me to another part of Jessup jail. So that was the process that I had been going through my incarceration. I would go from, like I said before, in the beginning. All this came about because of a lie. It was this millionaire, the Cafers people. Cafers House, where they owned majority of stuff in Washington, a lot of stuff I didn't know they owned, which got me incarcerated. So anyway, it was that. They lied, the two detectives that I said came to try to take me out of jail. They created this case. And from some other things that they thought I was involved in. So they created the Cephas thing, that she was my girlfriend. I know her, but I never touched a woman in my life. And when they gave me soda pentothone, that all came out. All of it came out. She was supposed to be investing some drug in the past. That was a lie. Everything came out. So nobody know what to do with me now. For all these years, I've been running back and forth in the system, from one thing to another. And once I was blessed, I always give Fontre the credit because he was the only one stood. He stood fast and far as me being, released. They said I had a warrant, I had a violation, so he said send me back to the district. And he insists for them to send me back to the district. I had a hearing, a parole hearing every month. Nobody knew what to do with me. Like I said, during my course of incarceration, I helped a lot of people. I did try to do a lot of positive things. And my philosophy is to don't serve time, let time serve you. By getting all the material you can read and all the things that you can study. And like I say, I didn't want to when I go to parole hearing, and I said, it's not important for me to get out. All I have to do is keep my mouth shut, keep my mouth shut, and go along. But my problem is I wanted to stay out. I had problems. I became aware I had problems when I gave myself a psychoanalysis. It took me 2 years to accept the fact that that sick person was me. But once I accepted, then I was able to go on and better myself.
So how do one psychoanalysis
work? Yeah, how you do what you do, you get, you isolate yourself mentally, and you go back and think about as far as you could think what you was doing. But the key was how you feel while you was doing these things, how you was growing up, the different things you did while you was growing up. And see, when you can generate these feelings, and see, this person is not you, but it is you. It's your mentality. You place another person doing these things, which was you. Then I was able to see. Like I would think so much, I said, oh, that could be me, that person's sick. Which he was, but it was me. That person had a bad habit. He had a quick temper. I don't know what's wrong with that. That was me. That's how you give yourself a psychoanalysis. But to accept you, that was the hardest part. I would say, no, there's no way I could be that person. No way I could do these things. But it was me, and I did these things. But only once you see this, and the frightening thing, when you generate these feelings, how you were during that time when you were doing it, how the feelings, and that's what scared you. How could I feel like this? How could I actually think like this? This is how you do a psychoanalysis on yourself. But the key is, once you recognize it, is to be able to accept, see, this is me. And so once I did that, I was able to continue to do a lot of positive things. Like I say, once I got released from all this ordeal, because during the time I went to psychiatrists and I told them the threat when I was in the penitentiary periods of my life, and which really helped me. He said, I said, I feel really like I'm paranoid. I feel like my life is being threatened. And he showed me. He said, oh no, you're not paranoid. He said, what do you think? Messing with them Cephas people. And come to find out, it was a thing. I got caught up with a group of people, if you wanted to know the truth, a group of European Jews. Because this was the Cephas and everybody I encountered. Hoffman, they denied me my rights because of this. And the knowledge I acquired about me and them. You got to have a beginning before you have an end, and this was a bigger threat. See, the biggest threat is me not as the person, but the knowledge that I acquired. Now I know how he come about. Always have a beginning before it again. I have put this in on a Facebook, part of it, which I'm gonna put in this book. It's how all these things came about in this country. Our mentality from the Willie Lynch syndrome.
What's a Willie Lynch?
The Willie Lynch syndrome is those black or white See, white carried the Lord, the will of this thing of superiority. The blacks carry, which is a slave mentality, the dissension towards each other. You know what I mean? The perpetuation of a dislike for no reason at all, or to be able to see, you know, if you're not a part of being the whites, that you feel inferior. So you look up to other people other than you. And this is what goes, I'm in a minute.
You're good.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure everything is fine.
Yeah, just give me the 5 minutes. Just tell me then, because I'm going to put that in.
You've got 20.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yes. So this was important, and it all starts. You got to have the beginning, and it all started with the Willie Lynch, with the Michelangelo thing. See, what Michelangelo created, which I call you, he created the Antichrist. And the reason I say that because he said, see, what Michelangelo's painting, which we all call Jesus Christ, Michelangelo did another painting, like he did David, but this one, the Last Judgment. And the Last Judgment, he did a self-portrait of himself in hell. And when it was asked why he did it, place himself as hell, he said, I created a false idol. Now, he's saying I created, but have we read that false idol? Where's the false idol? It's in the King James Bible. And then you look at the Antichrist, we tell you. Now, we know this is 7th edition of the Bible now, and the King James is 7th edition. We know Constantine, and it's been written several other Bibles been written before King James. So King James was the most relevant Bible, because this is what all these people apply themselves to today. But yet and still they won't recognize, why King James did it. So King James had nothing to do with the Bible but authenticity. And was told, because he was he was an outstanding political reader. And reading the original Bible, he knows that all these people were people of color, Jesus and everyone else. But then the ideology is, how can you keep a person enslaved once he found out he's a God? Then the theologians say, well, look what Da Vinci and Michelangelo did. You see, at this time, we talk about the 1600s, 1602 and 3. They say when they capture a person, they say the first thing they do, they had that picture, the cross. See, when they do learn to read it, understand the English, the first thing they see Jesus, the first thing comes to their mind is the picture. We look like them. They don't. So this is why you have the superior and inferior complex. I've always used this as a thing. I remember Chris Rock had a show, and he said, look, I'm a rich nigga, and this is a bum, a poor white person. But he wouldn't trade places. And the reason why he still feels superior, because he's Jesus. He's like Jesus. Mm-hmm. You see? And so this has been a very thing throughout the world. And they know it in Rome. They know the truth. But people like to say, I have seen preachers, oh, it don't make no difference what color you're wrong. It makes a big difference. This is how we got these things today. You forget who the majority and who's the minority in the world. People of color always been the majority of the world, outnumber the minority, which is whites. Oh, 1,000 to 1. Look at India, China, Africa. Look at these countries, South American countries, but they don't control. And the two things to keep them from being controlled is, first, it was introduced through the weapons. Once they went over to China and found out about the gunpowder and know how to make it, there's no comparison. You got a bow and arrow and I got a rifle. There's no comparison. So that's why they enabled the country to capture all these countries. But the most key was, in capturing America, was the religious, the slave mentality, that everybody's white dominates those who are black. And if you want to get ahead in life and be a part of this country, you got to adapt, be a part of everybody black. They want to be a European. You want to take it, and we go so far as trying that, in my day, to try to take the color with all the bleaching cream and everything, and we tried it with the straight and comb and all that. See, that was a psychological thing to always make you feel inferior and want you to seek to be like them. And this thing, you know, you can't, these are the three elements that which is, I can see within this country comprised of the races, the bias, and the greed. These things was created, the Constitution was created based on that. It wasn't created on all men was equal because we wasn't even considered. We was considered 2/3. But I look for this generation, but this generation must take a stand. It must be, you got to have a beginning before you have an ending. If you don't recognize the beginning, you just exist until the end. And this is the problem of the day. Things can be better, and if this generation don't change, it won't be changed. This is the generation to change it, because now we are reaching the goal what Malcolm predicted. We got so far advanced with this technology. The one-eyed monster, is taking over. And I hate to feel sorry to say it. I know and I believe, I don't know when, but I know how. From this social media, it's going to get to the point that we can't control it. And we can't control it now. And this is what Malcolm predicted: destroy this country and the world. And because you can see it, a person regards, they can't social media, they can't read and write. Some of them in the jungle don't even have electricity, but they got a cell phone. They can see and they can hear. And this is what tells them. It tells you what to eat, to sleep, to drink, whatever it is to live. In other words, this actually tells you what to live. And the people that control this is really controlling you. But their mind can go so far. But what we need to do, we got to come together and we got to recognize who we are. And everybody, I can go to many, many subjects as to why things are like it is. In any group of people, like I say, from the Antichrist, dealing with the Catholic, the Jews, I don't care what you are, there's a reason and why you come to be like it is, and why you want to hold on to your values. Because like I say, the mentality, the greed, the bias, you know, and definitely the races, it's always going to be that way. I don't care what no one say, it always, and the reason they have to be that way is because of survival. Use common sense. See, the key to everything is common sense. Now, just think, if you have something, just replace it. If you have something all this time, you can do what you want. Do you think that you're going to allow somebody else to come and take over this? No more than you don't allow them to share it. So you know you can't allow them to take care of it. And I look at the day, and look at the day and how it comes. Let's take the day's event. The day's event, we look at right now the races. This fellow Sterling, basketball. So many of them. You know why he do that? If he know his religion, he claimed to be a Jew. If he know his religion, that's what he worship. Abraham and all of them are people of color. So how can it be? But they didn't come to prominence. Don't be fooled. Now, they didn't really come to prominence. You know the difference between the other Europeans and them, why they didn't want them in the country after the Second World War?
Why?
They didn't want them there because what they did in the First World War, Napoleon War. See, Napoleon was in France. He goes to the Bank of France, the Rothschilds. But see, go to the beginning. Rothschilds there was 5 of them. They were the Burns. And they were, every country they were fighting, they were the ones financing. In other words, you had one family really financing the war, have other Europeans killing each other. See, you take money to finance a war. See, think about that. People, Southern Europeans know what I say today. The ones in power. That's why they at odds. It's not just the Jews per se. They practice, anybody can be a Jew, you just practice Judaism. See, they are Germans, they are Polish. By nationality, birthright, that's what they are. But they adopted the religion, Judaism, because Judaism is the way it teaches how to get wealth. Like the original Jews was the Ethiopians. And people ask me, well, if that's true, why the Ethiopians Why ain't they have everything? Because the color of the skin. They can't go over there in Germany and Poland and set up this. But if you're already Polish and you practice Judaism, you just change your name like they do over in America. And that's where they were able. And what it does, it teaches you how to provide services. Your doctors, Sigmund Freud and all this, your doctors, your lawyers, where people have to come to you. All your businesses, you have to come to them. And this is how they gain control, but then other Europeans know this is a threat. And you take it, they're always gonna be at odds. You take Sterling, what he doesn't know, he really doesn't know himself, but he plays. But all these people come to his rescue, especially the black folks asked to, well, he did this, he did that. He ain't did nothing. He's a taker. The thing is, man, I just want my generation, this generation here, and my generation, and only through being able to communicate like we're doing now. I'm using the one-eyed monster to maybe whatever, to move it to a better level. And this is the purpose of doing this, to make these kids aware. But if they know the history, always have the beginning. My generation was rock and roll. See, music played a very important part. Before they had the integration in the schools, you had two singing together. See, music is powerful. But at that time, they took advantage of us as the musicians. But today, this is why I love the young generation. They own their own studios, but they still allow themselves. They still trying to compete. They still want to be accepted. You still don't fully accept yourself. We still have the wilderness mentality. We still will look at one another with image for no reason at all. They still got enough of that indoctrination within us to keep us from growing. And see, the only way is we come to the reality of knowing, say, hey, this is real. This is real. Okay, how do we deal with it? See, our problem is we got a lot of our leaders, all the preachers and everything, never one of them told people the truth about Jesus. Oh, Jesus is in color. And it does make a difference by him being there. And if you knew that he was the color, you coming up when I was preaching, I ain't had to say nothing. You look at me and you look at yourself. You see a part of Christ, Jesus, see? But when you look at this Michelangelo creation, you don't see yourself. You can't. And this is the problem. You got to be able to feel a part of being yourself. The inferior complexes and things that we accepted from other people, we must let go. And like I was saying with the younger folks, look how they expand in mind. I love them, but then I look at how they rebel. And the way of rebelling, I always think about the movie of Shaka Zulu, the influence that he had. See, people didn't recognize that when Shaka was being made, 2 years, one part they didn't want to show. They didn't want to show. It was all right to show where he killed all his people. They didn't want to show where he overran the Cape because they know the subliminals. We're going to imitate, and they didn't want that. During that time, we had Nelson Mandela coming out and everything, but they didn't want that. They were smart. They knew about the subliminals because this is what we do. Where do you think the earrings come from? Everybody wear after Shaka. One time before Shaka, men wouldn't wear earrings unless she was gay. Then another thing they took out with Shaka, everybody wanted to walk with the sway, Shaka sway. But the most dangerous thing, and which is happening today and we don't realize, that they took from Shaka, killing each other with no remorse. That's what they showed us. But they know we was going to do this. That's why they didn't want to show us killing white people. Now you see they fought against it, which is right. They knew about the subliminals. And it's the same subliminals Malcolm talked about. At the time, I did a part of thing on Facebook, which you can get some idea about my objective.
So you have a Facebook page?
Right. And it's Stanley Austin. Password is TrueBill 2012. Stanley Austin. STANLEYAUSTIN. TrueBill, TRUEBILL 2012. My email is Mr. Beaver, B-E-A-V-E-R, 77737 at Gmail. Password Memorax 2012. See, this is a brief before it gives you some idea of my thoughts and things. You know, I haven't really given you what's in the book. I will give you a few, go in depth about all the different things that had happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All the things that you may be in question about or wondering about, I can clear up and bring this to your attention, because right now, the need, and this is why I'm here. See, you know, you don't live through. Man, you gotta use common sense and think. You don't go through, which I did, this without some kind of help or support. Some gift. I don't know what you call them. You can call them God, you can call them aliens, you can call them whatever you want to call them. But there's a force that allowed me to do this today, because this was, what, 11 years in the making.
That's correct.
11 years in the making, but it's now.
I believe when it was in the makings, it was in the makings before we met, when the Citywide Advisory Board of the District of Columbia Housing Authority.
Right. And when you think about it and you look at my past, like I said, I held, even though I was on parole, I held all kinds of jobs. And I had this in virtual laboratories and several other places, virtual laboratories, State Department, even the new White House building. I was there. This is where I met Donald Rumsfeld, that I indicated there, who owes me a favor. That's what I indicated there.
And what about Eric Holder?
Eric Holder, you know, I have a thing. You know, he did. I had people that came to me during this confirmation hearing before it's been reported. They wanted me to present it, to show some sort of confidence he may have, but I refused. Even today, I spoke of him, and maybe once you see this tape, you remember. But it was something that should have never happened. But I know I look at people the same way with Kathy Hughes. I presented the black flight to Kathy Hughes years ago. In case you remember, I was outstanding. When I met her up here at Alexis Rover, she was running for councilman. You know, I was everything, but somewhere or another, you know, and I realized, you know, maybe they had formed, don't mess with me. But that's not nothing new. I have seen that so much for so many people that they tell them. I never get one of the young lives concerned men, black men. They tell them, oh, if you want to get a grant, don't mess with Stanley Austin. You can get a grant. And these was the things I've been encountering. But it's his time is my time. So what I believe in now, through you, is the law of God's time. I don't want people to get confused on what I becoming because I say a law or God. See, you got to, you know, you got to understand, you don't know my perspective and my concept of what it is or who he is. I have difference in, you know, everything, but mine, my experience, because Allah using him has helped me too, as well as using saying God. You know, each thing we got to understand, it's no one religion, and it's no one God. I'm gonna let you know, prepare you for that now. It's what you believe in and what you hold true in. But you got to open mind, you got to be real with it. That's what I come to find. People not real, they're not real with Jesus. You go to all these churches, they were good. They are good motivated speakers. That, you know, I love them. But once they open their mouth and say Jesus, then that's when he goes astray. Because you don't know Jesus. When you start letting Jesus be Jesus in his truest form, you cut all these pictures out, and start preaching. When people when the little kid want to know, say, Pastor, what did Jesus look like? Then you tell them the truth. He was uncolorable. That's the best. That's the thing I know that he's up, and not taking it from that content. See, I straighten up that too. See, a lot of preachers try to use, a lot of people say, well, he had hair of lamb's wool and skin of, you know, burnt bronze, which is true. But they forget, where was he? He wasn't walking the earth. That's when John saw his vision when he was in heaven, not when he was walking the earth. See, y'all accept that, but y'all won't accept the two-headed sword coming out of his mouth. You don't accept the ice of flaming coal. See, that's a monster to y'all. But then you forget, if you believe in God, everything's up, this and so, it's not of the world. See, that's what it is. We don't get no clarity of what we are saying or trying to say. But now, they're locked in with a mentality. You never seen so many of these talk shows of Billy Graham. All of them are wrong. All of them. When you deny Jesus, and I know this thing, this is what I'm doing now, you're in trouble. Because once you hear it, you're accountable for it. I can go check it out, what I'm saying. I have no problem. I can easily prove that I'm right. But nobody can prove I'm wrong. I have yet. You can watch all the history programs you want. They can throw up all the pictures you want. They want of you. But what I'm just saying, I can easily prove it. No problem in proving what I'm saying. And it's important that you know those who are the so-called Christians. Now, if you deal with another religion, I have nothing to do with that. My mission is my mission now to convey what I'm telling you now. That is my mission. And then you got to wonder, when you read the book, oh, who brought me through all of this?
And what's the name of the book again?
My Way to the Bitter Earth.
My Way to the Bitter Earth. By Stanley Austin.
Yes.
So, Mr. Austin, as you know, you was one of my leaders, one of my coaches, and one of my advisors. So what advice could you give me today?
Well, the advice I could give you
as a leader.
As a leader, my advice to you is what you believe in. Hold on. I mean, if someone can show you something, prove to you that you are going in the wrong direction, stay where you are. But then I also would tell you this, and what you know, consequences going to be great. No one wants to deal with the truth. Like they say, you can't handle the truth, they can't. They don't know how to deal with a straightforward person, or they can accept it if you was a different hue. You see, that's what makes you so bad. Not saying, I know we have, who I love, you know, President's wife and Condoleezza Rice, we have all these. But look how they easy set them up. Every little thing. And see, unless you have someone, there's always got to be a partnership. See, you always have to have a good partner to share your views and what you think. Because you need that. Without that, you're vulnerable. I watch today how they don't know. It's sad. We really not the politicians that we should be. We have not learned how to be the politician we should be. I always wanted to be like, this is about like Bobby Baker. See, Bobby Baker, he served the vices for all the politicians. He gave all the women all to you wouldn't have this big scandal. And I always wanted to be him. I wanted to protect all the black politicians because they're human beings. I know these things going to exist. But as long as you don't hurt the public, as long as you help be that public servant, this is other life. See, we put people on these standards. We wanted to be on the standards that we can't live up to. We want other people, we want to make out like they always did, like they make the heroes. I think when I say making the heroes, I think about so many people they created as heroes. So this is important. And your thing is leadership. You know, since I know these things that I heard about you, you have more than leadership skills and qualities. You see, where a person don't know how to look at things, we don't know how to, you know, like I said, use common sense. Someone come to, oh, Miss Vann-Ghasri, oh, she's so strict, she's so that. But then they always let her finish. And I said, but is she right? They said, oh yeah, she knows what she's doing. So all that other stuff is really not relevant. But it's relevant, you know what you're doing. This is what I'm saying, stick what you're doing. But you can be more assertive, but always be careful. Be careful of the whispers, all the people that you take into. You know what I mean? Because we just not geared, we haven't reached that level as being honest and truthful with each other. We still hold on to that Willie Lynch mentality. Some things of you still hold on to. Even today with the knowledge, I have to catch myself. Wait a minute, what am I saying, you know? Because it has come a great part of your life. It's around you, a part of your environment. So we learn to fall, and I don't believe that. You know, you have some people say we break the cycle, the environment was bad, but we was able to get through it, whatever. And every person, whether it's a grandmother, a friend, whatnot, had someone else to assist them, to help them to get through this environment. And so what I leave with you, I hope that I don't want nobody to accept. I just want people to check out, to verify so much. And when the book is complete, I'm gonna have the book problem, and I'm gonna have everything, every detail. And I just want you to check out these things which I am conveying to you, because it's important, because we are in the times. And people talk about the last days. I don't know when or how soon, but we are there. How far, what can we invent now? How much more can Apple invent?
Well, Mr. Austin, it was a sincere honor and a sincere pleasure to have you with us today with Grassroots Media at Potomac Gardens Grassroots Media Center. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And have a nice day.
Oh, I'm gonna try.
Cut you off.
Okay, okay.